Okay, let's move on. I've got very little time left, probably about 22 minutes left. So, let me share with you some further ideas as how we can either predict or create our own futures, our own e-marketing and social media futures in cyberspace. Okay? Because one of the first things, first problems or first questions we get asked by students when we try and get them excited about developing their own business as well. What kind of business? What am I supposed to do? Let me give you some ideas of how to start thinking about your new ideas and how they may be fruitful for you. Okay? As I've said already, predicting the future is really a bit of a mug's game. It's very difficult to do effectively. So let's ignore just straight prediction and let's move on to some other ways of trying to develop things. I'm going to skip this next little section because we don't have time for it. So bear with me while I skip through this, and this. Oh, you knew that Google was a hardware company, didn't you? Yeah, yeah, of course you did. Microsoft was a hardware company, blah, blah. Okay. Predicting the e-future is, I think, what we call on both sides of Atlantic, a busted flush. It's really had its day, it doesn't really work. The Hudson Institute back in the 1970s made a big thing. A guy called Herman Kahn became the guru of prediction, using the Delphi technique and all the rest of it. We've retreated from that now, and a good thing too. So what can we do? Well, the first thing I would advise you to do and start becoming a habit, and I try to make it a habit in my life, is spend some time, at least on a weekly basis, maybe more frequently if you can, scanning the environment. It's a well-known business term, environment scanning, for new technical and other developments, and asking yourselves, perhaps in individual or group review meetings, what could there be in this for us and our product and our service? And all the big companies do it. Bill Gates, before he stepped down and went off with Melissa to spend his trillions out in the third world, he used to go through review meetings, maybe 20, 30 a day, that was part of his life, as new products internally in Microsoft were brought to his attention. You need to do this. You need to scan the environment and ask questions. Hey, could that be interesting? Could that be useful? Could that be fruitful? Here's an example. How many of you, this is question number on your quiz, this was question number 2, was it? Or question number, yes, question number 2. There's the answer. Right. We've all heard of Bluetooth, haven't we? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This is, if you like, Bluetooth 2 or Bluetooth 3. Okay. And people are testing it out to go along with iPhone, with the Android operating system, with Google and all the rest of it. Basically, it's a form of communication that allows devices to talk to one another if they're in close proximity to one another, hence near field. We have a version of it in the UK called the Metro. We can take what we call an Oyster card and swipe it as we walk through the gates. You don't have to buy a ticket, swipe it. When we leave the train, come out of the station, swipe it again. That's effectively a near-field communication device. That's one very powerful way of using it. Acquiring data from smart objects is another way. A few years ago, I was looking at some conference proceedings, 2006, and some guys in Turin came up with this idea. If people are bashful about introducing themselves to potential partners out there in the public sphere, why not get their umbrellas to do it for them? I know it sounds a bit fanciful. The idea was, in the metal, what they call the ferrule of the umbrella, you had a little transceiver that had stored in it all your preferences, a profile of yourself, and as you walk down the road on a wet day, as you pass somebody else's umbrella, which had a similar transceiver with their details, you would talk to one another and say, hey, do you think we're up for that? You don't even go past their space. You don't have a cat or a dog going out. Okay? I thought at the time, hey, that's a neat idea, science fiction. Hey, guess what? Maybe NFC could be enabling technology to allow that. You think of those kind of, who would need Facebook or all those dating sites any longer? Just make sure it's raining and out you go. Just a thought. Bear in mind that Android is looking at this very seriously at the moment. I don't have time, otherwise I'd show you a YouTube video on that, but you can look at it yourself. It's really exciting, and it provides a complement what we call far-field kind of communication devices. Hugely important for intimate exchange of marketing information with people, maybe in the street, walking past stores, wherever. Okay. This is what I mean by scanning the environment and asking, what's the information? Where do I go to find this kind of information? New technologies, just breaking through the knowledge horizon. I've given up following tweets. I've given up more or less looking at blogs. There's too much information, it comes too thick, too fast, there's a deluge, there's a torrent, it's a flood. I can't keep up with it. And most of it is flawed and just rubbish anyway. Even if I've got filter services set up, news aggregation features and Google and all the rest of it. So I'm telling you, here's a little continuum of sources. On the one end are the tweets and blogs, the deluge of flawed messages, very noisy, because there's only small little bits of truth stuck in it. At the far end of this continuum, which stretches along here, are the textbooks that we academics write, which are a waste of time. Don't bother reading the textbooks in marketing. They're at least 2, 3, 4, 5 years out of date. I'm glad that Evangelos hasn't written one. Please forgive me if any of you three have written one. I wrote one last week. Exactly.
We don't have a textbook.
We know nothing for starters as academics about the business world. And even if we did, we get round to far too late one day to tell people about it. So what's the point?
Sorry.
Okay. Journals are not that much better. Again, 2, 3 years in lag. So I tend to sort of sit in the middle here with newspapers and magazines. And to tide me over the first hour of coming back from the States in January, what was this one? Okay. I bought the latest issue of Fast Company, of Inc., of Wired. I take Wired fairly regularly. If you don't look at these at the very least, then you're not, I think, a serious e-marketer. Right? You can read most of these articles online free anyway, so you don't have to shell out hard cash for them. So you've got no excuse really. Just a few hours every now and again. Okay. I'll come back to Fast Company in just a minute. Good article to recommend to you. Okay, so this is where you can look when you're doing your environment scanning. This is where you should look. This is where you need to look to inform yourself. You can't make decisions about what might impact your business if you don't know what those developments are. Okay? So learn about these developments, try and be up to date. The second mechanism is to actually be creative. And again, I know this is easy for me to say, I've been around the block quite a few times, and I can put a lot more stuff in here I can draw on to be creative about and with. But there are little tricks you can use to be creative in developing your own e-marketing and social media ideas and services. Okay? Here's 2 or 3 of them. First one, imitate. In other words, steal. Go out there and look at works. Follow the idea, reverse engineer it, build your own equivalent service. Everybody does it. Web pages and video games are seen to be fair game. Somebody a year or so ago published a study showing just how frequently one person's paragraph in their website they had written then got copied into thousands of other websites. It is a national or rather a global pastime. Okay? But at least a starting point. One video game, if you're interested in video games, you can chase up the web page. He suggests that actually those imitators, those copycat video games, can be quite good because they usually take a fresh slant on the original idea in the video game. So don't always ignore the imitators. But I have to say, when I see all these multiple imitations of the same idea, I get bored. Which one do I use? Do I use Blinklist? Do I use Fern, Spur, Netfood? They're all doing much the same thing, sharing your favorites, sharing your links, sharing your lists and so on. There's just too many of these services, and they're all just trying to fight one copycat idea with another copycat idea. You all know about Alex 2. You should know what Alex 2. Just over a year ago, he set up this website. Except that when he set it up, there were none of these pretty pictures, which is a blank screen. There were 1 million pixels on that screen. He said that he was going to sell each pixel for $1. And last year, he sold the last pixel, and he earned $1 million. Whoa, what a great idea. Why didn't you think of that before? Well, of course, people came along and said, oh, that's a good idea. I can imitate that. I can do the same thing. This is as far as at least one imitator got. How many pixels they sell? Certainly no near 1,000, just a couple hundred, probably family and friends. Okay? If you go to Pink $1 Million now, there's actually one of these cyber swapping websites for sale. They've got nowhere, they die with that. So imitation has its limitations. You can take it so far, and then you need something else. What is the something else? Well, let's go back to Alex 2. Right lad, got fed up with sitting in this $1 million, decided I want to be maybe 10 million or 100 million. How am I going to do it? Can I do my $1 million pixel trick again? The answer is yes, but with a big difference. he decided to go and talk to Facebook. He said, hey Facebook, I've got an idea for you. If I can channel 1 million people to you with the offer of $3 in their hand, would you help me to regulate that process so that we can actually put together a book with 1 million cases? If you haven't signed up to it and you want to be part of the future, or an archive of the future, make sure if you are. How many of you do use Facebook? How many of you got a Facebook account? How many of you have actually registered on this? Well, nobody? One? Nobody? Think about it. The moment I mentioned to my son and his partner, they said, oh, we're in there, $3 on the table. So in 20 years' time, when Facebook is still showing this in their archive, the great ideas of the past decade, they'll be there. I'm not sure what page you're on. Let's have a look. No. Think about it. Also think about Alex J. Not just re-imitating himself. Think of all those franchise video games that Electronic Arts coming out with again and again and again. All those films where you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 versions of the same film. That's imitation that goes wrong. He's quite an interesting thinker. Watch this space. What will he do next? I don't know.